Well, good after freaking noon. That's right. We have the closing stream today. We got those daily expected moves in the bottom right corner. We're going to talk about some stuff because over on Rumble, load the boat on AMC to 393. Hell yeah, Richard. Um, if you're thinking the spy's going to run, I mean, I think you got a good shot of it today. We have to see how this really behaves in this little area here. And during the live stream over on Rumble, we like to actually look at 5-minute charts so you day traders out there can get all excited and things like that. So how do we really want to treat price action here as people trickle in and say, hey, 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 maybe you have an afternoon coffee with you? Vital, kind of talking about something that we're going to, talk about, which is, when our market's going to keep pumping. Um, I think you're still at risk to see that downside move, uh, potentially sooner than you think. We'll have to pay attention, but for the time being, we want to take into consideration the price action of right now. Sorry, I gotta mute something real quick. So we have to really see what's going to happen at this point for today, because we're kind of like walking up that slow ledge right now. Now, we would like to see a peak above these type of areas, but if we really wanted to understand, or at least give ourselves an idea of percentages here, what could we overall do with this 5-minute chart, right? What could we overall do with this 5-minute chart for some sort of direction here? Are we going to see a test down into the bottom of this area? Are we going to see a test of this low down here at 558? Are we going to see those things? Well, what can we look for? That's right. Price action can help us out here actually a little bit, right? So in these situations, right, we did not necessarily do this, okay? We didn't do this. We haven't filled that cup, right? We haven't filled that cup. Now that can come, and I still believe this, paying attention to the environment that we are overall in. It's a very important thing. So we're going to go out to the daily time frame just for a brief moment at the beginning of the stream. If you missed the beginning of the stream, bummer. One thing that you need to understand is, we keep saying this over and over and over again. I keep telling people I'm not really shorting, not really shorting, not really shorting. Why? Because this is definitely possible, right? We understand that. A test of this level would be just fantastic. But for the time being, what's the environment you're overall in? Well, you're going from an environment that was kind of rips up, get torn away, rips down, see big reactions up. So you get big reactions down, big reactions up, all on daily, pretty much daily basis, right? You see a big pump one day, it's down the next. You see a big down day one day, it's up the next. You go up a little bit more, oh, it's down the next. It's down the next, and then it goes sideways for a bit, it goes down the next, then it starts to rip. Right? That's the kind of environment you were in. But now, as you're seeing positivity, you're breaking back into this level, you're in more of a neutral to bullish stance. That's right, neutral to bullish stance now. Why? Well, because of this right here, right? Neutral to bullish stance now, right? Which tells you what? This is where it becomes very, very difficult to short. You are overall squeezing in this environment. So this is why we've mainly been talking about the trade setups for bullishness, right? Bullishness. We're really trying to focus on that. So if we're going to see something really ugly here, then what do we have to do? Well, we have to reject out of that zone, right? The weekly expected moves say, hey, people can think that, but it's not necessarily the most probable thing. Correct? We can kind of see that. Okay, awesome. Just this alone should tell you shorting is difficult. You can be successful with it. I hope you have some time under your belt, though, because your timing on this is going to have to be spot on. Your reaction of where to actually sell from, it's going to have to be spot on, because this doesn't have to do that. It can easily just do this, do this, do this, do this, and keep doing that. All right, you're in this environment. People are very, very bearish. All right. We don't know how much pent-up bearishness of a reaction in the opposite direction can go. Now, I think we're going to see potential, like, we started talking about options expiration going into next week. We talked about the potential for a buying opportunity coming in the next couple of trading sessions. And we're still talking about those things over here. Now, the opportunity that I think would be is not an opportunity technically to short. Now, there's a way to do it. Like I said, if you're skilled with it and you see the right things in this area, and you see the signs of this can happen, okay, then we can see what's going to go on with that. Right now, what do I think is happening? I think that people, at least a slight amount of people, are trying to guess what's going to happen with the FOMC. I think that's what's happening here. I think people are guessing. And I think everyone's saying, you know, potential for rate cut, rate cut, rate cut. Potential for, you're hearing rate raise, rate raise, rate raise. What do we know about the Fed? Most of the time, they do nothing. Most of the time at the key points where, you know, people want to see reactions, right? What's the thing, right? What did we talk about this morning? When do you buy a house? When no one wants to buy a house. And you would say no one can buy a house, right? And when do you want to sell your house? When everyone wants to buy a house is when you sell the house, right? You do the opposite. So if you take that into consideration here, you can see kind of some signs in here that say, okay, well, if everyone's guessing what's going to happen and that's heading to the upside, this would be the pullback moment, right? This would be the pullback moment. Do I necessarily want to be buying into this? Well, that's in consideration with your trading, with your trade setup, with how you like to do things. With how I like to do things, it says kind of sit back and relax for a moment here and let the market show you what's going on. So now we can go into the 5-minute chart, right? Greetings, Milky Fade. How you doing, Milky Fade? We got more milk people in here. We like milk. So what can we see from here? Now, what opens up the door for this 5-minute chart? Now, 5-minute chart, we can see a lot of things happen. We can see sporadic things. But what we're looking for is a serious rejection here, right? We're going to take that high. We're going to take the low, I guess, from Friday. You're going to notice what? Well, this is how we get kind of a little outlook on how strong are we looking here. Because this, for the time being, is looking like what? Hey, gap fill. Okay, awesome. You know, that happens all the time. But can we still head in that downward direction? The answer to that is yes, right? But for the time being, buying, right? Buying will be much easier because you are not in the same environment you were in just a couple of weeks ago. This is why we started to bring up options expiration and things like that. We'll see what happens with the Fed and things like that. But overall, if we remain in bullish context, if everything remains positive, then we should be looking for those positive moves. And positive moves most likely will be easier to be successful in than, say, a negative move. So if we do end up getting the 2-hour pullback, which I would love to see, I think we could continue to melt up and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, but we'll see, right? Because we have that big event, FOMC, we have some data. Well, if this actually did happen and just came down to here and turned up, might be an opportunity. If this came down to here and turned up, might be an opportunity. If it comes all the way down to here and then turns up, that thing could be a good opportunity. You know, with how the market is right now, we're not necessarily even looking like we're going to get all the way to there, right? We might be paying attention more to our daily expected move on Tuesday or Wednesday at this point. But what we're looking for is that good confirmation to the upside and paying attention to key levels. Because as of right now, what really worries me is that look that people are suggesting. I believe it was maybe 2022, where you kind of peek your head above this and then you see weakness. So actually the behavior we want to pay attention to is more towards this, I think. But we have to see if we can get there in May. All right, because we're looking for that sell in May and go away moment. But I think it, you know, depending on how it behaves, it can be worse, right? That's how we can go down to those lows, revisit those lows, need to retest something. It's not all the way priced in type attitude. But if we're really looking at this from a standpoint of just like price action and everything like that, it getting above these levels is a good thing. And then you're looking for those retests, right? Which means what? Well, these extensions are going to be a lot easier to trade. This is going to be easier to trade. This is potentially going to be easier to trade than, say, these little moves down in here, because they could be super brief. But we're looking for that breakout possibly to like 580. That could happen this week. If this happens this week, that's kind of crazy. I would kind of lean towards that pullback into at least some kind of pullback for a retest. And then we end up actually going higher. Then maybe you get your bigger dump, right? This is where the risk is, truly. Is potentially at the monthly expected move, right? We always talk about monthly expected moves. The risk of downside becomes a lot higher if we can get to here, right? So we can pay attention to that in the month of May. But for today, for the end of the stream, we want to see how this 5 minutes reacting. As of right now, ending up turning down from our zone, right? Rejecting from our zone. So what do we need to see? We need to overall see that these are higher lows overall, right? And these are what? Higher highs. Higher high. Well, I guess this one would be higher highs. Is it a higher low from the previous one on the bigger? Yeah, you would potentially say so, right? Higher low again. So what does this mean for us? If we're going to start to see the 5 minute breakdown, we need to see this tear down. We need to see it tear through this and then never be able to blast back up. But we got to see this. Boom. Probably something like this would make the most sense. But we can use our little zone in here to really dictate, like, hey, is this really bullish? Well, if we're closing the day here, or if we ever are able to hold price sideways in here in any way, and then we're able to get back up to here, then that's a good thing. And we have to treat it like a good thing. We understand it can fail, but at the same time, we have to understand that's a good thing, right? That's why on the daily scale, you're in that environment of bullishness. That's why positive trades are going to be easier than negative. And I want to keep saying that, because if you're not versed in options and things like that, and you're trying to short a market that the environment has truly changed, it's going to be a difficult time. At what time is FOMC? Let me go check for you real quick. I believe it's usually in the afternoon. 1 p.m. my time. So whatever the actual close is for you when the market closes, it's 2 hours before that. You'll get the Fed interest rate decision. 30 minutes after that, so an hour and a half before the close, you will get the Fed press conference. Usually I like to say that the Fed press conference is usually more important. So this is actually where we can start to reject, right? This is great. So we're rejecting. Now we have to see the behavior from here. We have to see the behavior from here. Just because you reject once, hey, we can test it multiple times. The main thing is, do we lose this low? Do we lose this low? That's gonna be a big deal, right? So if we lose that low, we start to go negative, make a new low, make a lower high, start this little 5-minute downtrend. Then you're starting to say, okay, this 2 hour is going to confirm soon, maybe in the downward direction in the next 30 minutes. Then we tear to the downside and we go test something. Now, what are we probably going to test? Well, we're going to look at this very seriously. And then we're going to look in this upper side right here very seriously. And like I said, the environment has changed. What are you overall doing in this area? You are turning potential resistance into support. Okay? So we really should not be leaning towards this. If anything, the media is going to tell you, if this starts to drop like this before FOMC, right? We start to just tank this before FOMC, and we're down in this type of area. They're going to say, like, you know, panic looming with the Fed interest rate decision. You know, there's going to be all kinds of bad wording towards it, and then you're going to realize after the Fed interest rate decision that there's still earnings and all kinds of things like that, and then it can turn in that upward direction. And then that's where this thing could get mean, right? As you break out, you retest again. That's how you get to that monthly expected move. That's how vigorous this thing can be. It can really last that long. And you can only see like 2 pullbacks. So if you're in a very bullish environment at this point, which you are, you're neutral to bullish right now. Well, then what do we want to see overall? We want to see those little times where you get those bigger pullbacks, because those can be great opportunities for upside. Right as everyone shits their pants and says, we are going to do this, we use our data, we use our knowledge, we use the options market to say, hey, that's priced in for the week. That's priced in for the week, and that's turning back up. Oh, that crosses back up into positive territory. Holy crap. Then you get towards that options expiration, and that's where you could start to run into problems, right? Problems. We'll pay attention to it. You're not guaranteed to even see this right now, right? It seems like some people are trying to guess before you actually get the right things to happen. They're trying to guess before you actually get information. And I think just paying attention to the environment you're in will help you a lot more as a trader, and understanding a bullish trade would be very easy here. Very easy. So as of right now, we have our first touch into the zone. We're rejecting off of the zone, which just tells us watch this low. If we watch this low and it gets taken out, and we start to see this and we reject again, maybe even before we get to this zone, we just see a little rejection here. It's pretty much done. But if we see this low swiped and then we actually break that and see it go to here, we're going to be leaning in what direction? Up for the time being. That's what it seems like to me. That's how we read into these little zones. So pretty good stuff. 2 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess Eastern time is pretty easy to do there. Vigorous. The real trap here is the sell in May and go away. That's what I think. If we go through trouble right now, that'd be, we just took back and went neutral to bullish. So that would be very, very crazy if we just saw like an absolute crash from this level because of something as general as the FOMC, who normally just tells you, hey guys, it's been another month. We're doing nothing. Yeah. That dip came down into a key area, right? Came down into a key area that you've used before. You've used this before. You've used this before. Look at that, right? You've used it before, right? This is why just day trading is a lot of work, though. That's why I don't want to do it. But like I said, I think you're going to see some kind of shakeout at some point, unless you just melt this bad boy up, and then you just start to pop off into options expiration before you're able to get some kind of pullback into the end of the month with the sell in May and go away starts to be printed everywhere. That's how I see it right now. You got calls at the dip. And if you look at this, very positive, nothing really that bad going on here, right? We want to try to remain in bullish context right here. Doing something for fun? Doing something for fun? Hey, K-Van, good luck with your fundamentals. No thank you, but someone wants it. They can check you out. I don't care. Just don't spam or anything like that, okay, buddy? What's up, Dimitri? How you doing? Jake, I'll be putting some options on that Palantir just for fun. Just for a little bit of fun. We don't mind that. As far as Palantir goes, does Palantir have... Here, let me check on my other charts. Does Palantir have earnings like tonight? I don't remember. Yeah, what you could do, Palantir tonight. Okay, what they probably do here is you get to sell the news, but you see a pump first. Yeah, you see a pump first. You're looking for the retest. Here, I'll show you Palantir. I'll show you Palantir real quick. Palantir right here. So if you look at Palantir, if you don't get the dump right away, you don't see like this. You're still looking for the test into here. The test into here would be great. This is hope. That's a hopeful thing. This is kind of where the risk was. You notice we were able to break out, use it as support twice. So you go up and you test the high. That's great. So what I would overall do is be looking at this. You can see how that level is super, super key. Very nice. Multiple tags. Very nice. What I think you're more looking for is that dip down into here. I think that's the next opportunity for Palantir. Now, I still think earnings is earnings, right? I think earnings could do this, fade it. Here, let me redraw that. I think earnings could do this, right? Gap it up, fade the move. You probably see some kind of bounces in here in some way, right? This was a pretty important area. Gaps in that area as well. So that area, maybe I should pull that up again. Maybe I should redraw that zone, but I have the little center line on there, so I don't want to do that. So what we're noticing is just, this is great, but look, this is the get out of jail free card, right? What do we call this in chat, right? What do we always call this in chat? What do we always call this in chat? What up, Jeff? How's it going? Is it more probable to dump or pump during FOMC? If FOMC is going to be a reason, it depends on if FOMC is going to be a reason to shake people out. It's a very bullish context, and FOMC just does not fucking matter. Really, in the grand scheme of things, they're going to get things wrong. They're going to react late. They're not going to react at all. That's the main thing. We are Willow. We're doing Rumble. I'm just going to do it on YouTube for just a little bit throughout the month of May. I want to make sure a lot of people are getting access right now, because I think you're about to go into something a little bit crazy. I don't think you're going to go I think you have potential And here, let me finish up Palantir and then we'll get done. So we have that zone marked off, right? It was right in here. So I think the most likely thing is you get that FOMO pump, maybe in the after hour, and then you start to see that thing fade. Maybe even during the day you start to see that fade, and then you come down to these type of areas, break it, use that as resistance, and yeah, I don't think a divergence there makes sense. So pretty much the main factor here is just going to be daily pullback. You have the divergence, you have a very strong base, you have a great level to retest into. If you absolutely dump off with earnings, you know, people are going to say Palantir's dying, Palantir's going to reverse down to $80, which is a possibility, right? Anything can happen. We got to see how it behaves, because if you start to get roll, if you go deeper, then you start to roll. If you go deeper, you start to use these levels as rejection again. That's the downtrend. But around this area, this is probably the most probable thing, is a massive, massive, massive cup with a big ass handle, if you want to call it that. That's probably too deep to be considered a handle, but that's how I would see earnings playing out. That's why I think earnings is so hard to play a lot of the time, is because this has already seen the good move. Where was the trade for Palantir? It was here, right? The daily confirmation, positive from the previous right here if you wanted to. It was at $89. And that said, oh man, I almost talked like we were on Rumble. We talk a little filthy on Rumble sometimes. I almost did that. Palantir has that divergence on the daily and the weekly pretty well. Weekly, yes. Daily, no. Or wait, I'm sorry. Which direction are you looking, Jake? Weekly, daily pretty well, but I guess it could take time to work off. You don't have daily divergence here. It's too spread out. It's too spread out. If you're reading into this, you know, then you were saying like this is divergence all the way up here for the RSI, which like maybe that helped you out, but it's not a good thing to see an extended move with multiple curl ups and you see a divergence here and then say, oh yeah, from this point to this point it is. So I just want to make sure. Weekly time frame, yes, you see the divergence here, and this is what I think causes like people to really think this is going to dump off. But remember that the weekly has to confirm that bar down here. You can go down to here and wick out and turn to the upside, right? So we can see this, we can see all of this, and we could not even turn down the weekly chart, and you could see all of that, and it could extend. Now, I'm not saying that it has to be great. I'm saying if it breaks down and you do see that confirm, watch out, right? Watch out. But I'm not a guy that likes to play earnings. It's not really a thing that I like to do, at least very often, unless I'm using the fun account. Which Jake said he's using the fun account. Rejecting on the 30-minute, not a good sign. Have we lost that low yet, though? No, you haven't. So this is overall still bullish. You know, until we see it fully roll. Until we see it fully give us that rejection. We can kind of see what would happen here. That's how you lose that low. And you make like a lower high. Ooh, and then you just reject off of there again. You're heading down. But once again, where are we paying attention to? Well, in the bigger time frames, we're just going, okay, look for, you know, 550. I think it was that wick is at 557, 557.86. So we can look all the way down to here. It would still be fine. We can look all the way down to here, and it would still look fine. I'm hoping it gets there, because I think what's going to happen is we're going to do this, and that's just the 2-hour pullback. I think that if we do this, I'll be like, thank you, and then we start to ride up towards 575, or at least where was this 576, 576.50. We go up for there, and then we're going to retest that later if we break through it. So I like it. I like how the market's setting up. I like that we're seeing a little bit of, I would love to see resistance come in and people start to downgrade FOMC. I kind of would like FOMC to be used as a negative thing at first. I want the first reaction to be negative, but you know, you can't always get everything what you want. You got to pay attention to price action. So if this thing just curls up here, then you might not even pull back down to those lower levels. You might just pull back into this zone for a moment. Is this the morning? No. This is the afternoon. This is the afternoon where everyone tells everyone how much they can bench, and all the girls go, "Woo! Oh my gosh, you're so strong." That's what we do on Rumble. We just talk about how much we can bench. Yeah, just note here, I am a position trader. I am not some kind of I would not call myself a 1 minute or 5 minute, say, expert. I think you can use the 5 minute to see some direction, but I won't be going into 1 minute charts. Remember that I truly do trade based off of 30-minute, 2-hour, and daily charts. So just be aware of that. I am not trying to day trade. I'm trying to see direction here for if the 2-hour pullback is higher potential. I just want to put that little disclaimer out there for you day traders who are going to beat me up in a second. We do have forms of weakness in certain stocks. Apple showing it. I believe Amazon was showing it. Yeah, very flaggy all day, just sitting here. Does not add too much confidence to the 30-minute being able to curl up. You have broken the low. A pullback for NVIDIA here, but still remaining very well here. Let's see if we get that flash move higher. Flash move higher. Sell maybe into the Fed. Initial reaction to grab liquidity in the zone, fill the gap. Then we see what happens. We got to see what happens. And that's why we're mainly looking at the SPY right now. And I know I'm going to delete this off for our videos later. We're just looking at this for the 5-minute direction here. There you go. So you're pretty much caught between two little zones on the 5-minute. And you're seeing if this thing can break above that center, because that gives you a good amount of direction. So I think, yeah, I think Palantir could be good. But also, if you look at Palantir and you already had that, and you traded it based on the daily divergence that we kept pointing out, you're saying thank you. And you're just saying thank you to Palantir, and you're going, I don't even need to hold this for earnings. I've seen a 30%, something maybe more than 30% move from what 90-ish to 120, 125. Yeah, about a 30% move. I think you're pretty like how is that trade not successful at this point, right? If you had the balls to hold it and not take profit on the way up. Jim Bob. Thoughts on Netflix? Same kind of deal. I would say as Palantir, when you look at the daily time frame, you're just going, do I want to buy Netflix when it's at like an absolute all-time high? Or would I rather buy Netflix, with some kind of give up on this, right? Because this can just go and go and go, man. Like you really don't. Once you're in this environment, man, shorting is just hard. It's hard. I mean, we have data for it, and we've shown times where we've executed shorts and stuff that looks like this, and your timing might be okay. I would say one more curl up would be nice to really give you that, hey, we're failing. But if we don't have as much data for Netflix as we would like, because I don't trade it very often. But where would be the trade? Where would be the good trade? This is very positive, right? What's this white line for? Right? What's this white line for? That was resistance, right? That was resistance. Okay, let's go in the past. Let's go in the past. Because everyone looks smart when they look at the past, right? All right. So we use it as resistance here, even here, right before. Then we take it. We use it as support. We try to hold up at it, kind of like a indecision almost day. And then once we break through it, we use it as resistance, resistance, resistance again. Come down, resistance again. Come down, resistance again. But this time, we gap up into it, which means what? We have flipped this as of right now into support. So where's the next good trade? Well, it's anytime you get near that. It's anywhere in here, really. That's where you have potential. You got to have some skill. You got to be looking for the right things, right? You got to be looking for those W's. But for the most part, let's see. Yeah, I would draw this up. I would even say like, well, let's just pay attention to this and we'll look at this in the future. Right, we can mark off kind of that 1,000 mark. Well, I know it's a little bit higher, but I kind of want to include that gap, but I'm just going to do this. Bam, right there. You can see a flash move to maybe fill this gap or something like that. If you're filling that gap though, and you break through this, what does this become? This comes resistance. Okay, so the next bullish trade setup, which your MACD is suggesting, it's going to be a bullish trade setup. It's too extended across to really read into. Would potentially be down in these areas, right? Now, this could just do this and do whatever. It's not, what's the way to put this? It's not a guarantee that price will get there, right? It's more just a guarantee of this is not a good price for me to be investing, right? And paying attention to where the price would be for a good investment, possible good investment, at least a good trade, I would say, maybe like a 3-week trade. I would more so be looking for this type of price. That means what? This could do whatever. It could gap up tomorrow. It could gap up with FOMC, ride that wave, but eventually it's going to come back down to that price point, in my opinion. If you're lucky, you hold up here, right? We can put a line there at least for the time being. If you're lucky, you hold up right there. That's how I see it for the time being. So if you're lucky, you get like consolidation, turn up, or you get that move up, exhausted, then turn up. That's if you're lucky and you're holding on to the stock, right? If you're holding on to the trade, if your option is, no, option would be screwed there. I think you're more so like, I want the great opportunity. So if it's here, okay, that's going to be an okay one. That'll be pretty good. And then you want to make sure that's turned around, has some sort of reversal in it, right? Some kind of higher low or divergence here would be great. But I think you're more likely to see if this is broken, used as resistance, then you see the divergence here. I think this would just look a lot nicer. Let's tank it for May. I'd be waiting for options expiration. There's a lot of, I'm sure Wall Street's kind of pissed. I'll tell you why Wall Street's pissed. That's probably why Wall Street's pissed at you. Genuinely. They're like, man, we had to price in all this crap. I don't think it was expected to need to. I think they were like, this is all we need. And this took me off guard too, that gap down. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, that took me off guard, and I had to reassess, and that's when we put out the video of the 95%. We took that right in here. For the time being, though, they would say, oh, man, I'm pissed, right? I want to build that back. I didn't expect that, right? These levels, right, these dotted lines especially, kind of tell you when they didn't expect something as far as Wall Street goes. These monthly expected moves, they will tell you more so when Wall Street gets kind of caught off guard. Regardless, long Palantir. Hopefully later. Hopefully it gives you that big pullback down to like $80 or something. 90, or I think it was like 90, 95. We'll meet with some film industry officials. Says wants to make sure industry is happy with the tariff idea. That's a weird idea. I'm interested in it, but I just haven't looked into it enough. We have broken that low. Let's just remember something here, though. Let's just remember to draw our zones if you really want to. I think, no, that brings you into the next one. I think you go like this, and you see what happens. Because this was a retest into this zone, so we want to take into consideration this part right here. Range until FOMC, that's kind of, I would say that range is, one, you would consider it 50-50 flip, but range into FOMC, actually, I want to lean towards bear side if we get a range. Weirdly enough. I know that's weird. That's how I'm looking at it right now. System of a down. Let's freaking go, dude. Yeah, 5 minute. You just have to make so many zones for 5 minute. I'm like, eh. You have to stare at charts all day for a 5 minute. or understand like movement and understand the environment you're in and then be patient. Right. It's a good time though. So we broke the low immediately. That should make you go, ooh, that's a little much. That's a little much. That's a little bit risky now. Now we open the door, right? We just opened the door to 560. You open the door to here. You open the door to in here now. We could potentially let's take. Yeah, we won't take the overreaction. Yeah, let's not take the overreaction. So the fact that you've done this is very good, right? That says, oh yeah, we're gonna go test into here. And then it goes, okay, now we're testing into here, we're bouncing off. So we might need to go all the way back down to here. Well, if you make a new low from this one, you get down to these type of areas, we'll be looking at the bigger time frames for that, but it starts to add more problems, right? We see how just from doing this, we can start to open the door to what? This type of area. So once again, that would just be a 2-hour pullback. I'm not saying this is like the easiest thing to potentially short, but once you see another lower high, that would really be the benefit here. See both of these broken even. Do it. And then do this. And then use that little zone. Use this. Break through. Use it as resistance. Roll it one more time. And now it's pretty much like, hey, 560 is definitely on the table. We'll see. Like I said, I'm not some kind of masterclass day trader. That's why I use bigger time frames. Let's go to the chat real quick. Let's look at volatility. I'm going to look at volatility on my other screen for a moment. India offers 0 for 0 tariffs on auto parts steel from US Bloomberg. Ooh, that's a good thing. Do you think Trump will fold due to 30-year bond nearing 4.9? Probably not. Our consumers are too strong. When it comes down to it, if you look at the strength of consumer and this causes some kind of social shift where people don't buy crap products anymore, like I guess the question that you're really asking is, will people be able to afford food if things get really expensive? Well, the thing is, yeah, I think they will. I think if you spend less money on crap, you'll be able to afford it. It's a matter of priorities that might need to shift, but that's more, social. We'll have to see. I don't think Trump would necessarily fold, though. I think he sees that his stuff is justified, right? All right, so Willow coming out with some random news. Did that just drop, Willow? Would you mind looking at the ES on the 30-minute MACD? ES is going to be one you want to. I like to extend it out. Yeah, I like to extend out the ES. Because if you look at this from a 30-minute perspective, let's see. I mean, you're testing into a zone again, rejecting off the bottom of it. That's not necessarily a good sign. Holding 5-day. I like to more stare at 2-hour charts and just look at it and go, hey, is this like extreme strength or not? It is extreme strength. Does it need a 4-hour pullback? Yeah, the 4 hours is what you're worried about. You're worried about the same thing, right? The same thing, just different numbers. Same thing, just different numbers, right? Yeah, you see that the ES, once again, We take into consideration the big block that we're in. We're in a pretty damn big block. What can the ES do? The ES can do something like this, 5,500. Boom. Right? Now, the 4 hour is showing more weakness than you would like. There is risk here, right? There's risk. But understanding the environment you're in is a good thing. Understanding you saw this is different, right? So if you really look at the ES and you just see this thing pull down into here, you'll just know, okay, that's not the worst thing in the world. Right? If we really did this and we would say, what block do we need to lose? What block do we need to lose? All right. Right there. Takes you right to about 55.40. 55.40. And then we would just say, okay, if this loses that, right, goes to the bottom, we'll still look for that roll. If it loses that, look for the touch for the rejection. Then it says downside. This is the actual trade. This is difficult because all the ES has to do is not get there. All the ES has to do is touch in the top towards what, 5,600? Yeah, about 5,600. So all it has to do is that, and it's done. So this isn't the short. You're not in the short environment. You're really not. You can be right. You can be correct, but it's just that it's more difficult to short here. And you have a big event like FOMC, so wouldn't you see a vomit like this and be like, man, a big reaction before a big event, bullish trend? Oh my goodness. And I would say like weekly expected moves for the ES, maybe you could pull those over from the SPX, honestly. It's going to be different. But yeah, that's how I'd be overall looking at things. Yeah, it's still, yeah. And if I like this comment from Jeff too. This just shows you you're still just riding this thing. You're still above the 5. You're above this. You're above this. This is starting to get what's happening with this. Well, what do you really look for, right? Well, what happened with this? It went flat, saw a little bump up, then it started to turn down. Then we did what? We used it as resistance, right? If you're just looking for that direction in some way. What are you doing now? Well, just like up here when you were reversing the trend down, you were reversing the trend potentially up, right? You're going flat now. So let's see, support, 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 zone of support. You got to see if you can lose that again to get this to start trailing down, right? Do this. And then you'll see something like, bam. This is the actual opportunity to short. You're not in the environment where it's an easy thing. And as you just took this back, I'm highly inclined to lean in the bullish direction, right? Because we just took it back. Like, don't let a bullish thing convince you it's bearish. This is a bullish thing, right? Let's not look at something that's overall bullish, right? Showing this, right? Let's not look at something that's overall bullish and treat it like it's bearish all of a sudden. Now, do I think some volatility spike could come? Yes. But when is that volatility spike going to come? We aren't down to 21.51. We haven't seen that test of 20 yet. We'll see. We'll see. We don't have to do that either, by the way. Just depends on how this market wants to move. Right now, down, down. Which means what? What is this? Well, in this environment, don't get caught in some kind of bear trap ever, right? This can go down to here. It doesn't have to go down to here. Right? And we don't need to have this this zone right now. We can chill. So yeah, once again, you're just in a bullish context. So look for bullish things. The environment's very bullish now. Look for bullish things. Even if it looks really bearish, if you're not losing the things you absolutely have to lose, then look for the bullish thing. Sorry, Willow. I haven't been reading chat too much. Let me see. T-Mobile's pricing for the U.S. consumer remains unchanged as the platform transitions to a local fulfillment model. All sales in the United States are now handled by locally based sellers with orders fulfilled from within the country, the company said in a statement to CBS Money Watch. Think Palantir earnings could be good or bad? I think that I think you have the opportunity for it to be good then bad. Once again, but look at what you're saying, Joshua. Spook. Right? Spook. Is it a spook? Or is it actually something to react to? That's going to be the thing, right? Is it spooky? Or is it something to actually react to? And I think that's the big thing. And it could be different based on the trade that you're overall looking at. I want to be more cautious here, right? I want to be cautious this way, right? We want to see if they need to turn down and retest those things. We'll look for rejection still in this area. But I think you're inclined to just look for, hey, what the heck's going to go on if we break this level, right? What if this 581.92 is here for a reason? What if we get there? How would we overall behave going forward? Would we see something like this? And then would that be more the risky area, right? We look at our monthly expected moves to tell us when we're getting something sporadic, something too much, something that needs a pullback, something that could be a big drop coming, right? Just like the downside. It's just the opposite side. This right here. Over the night? No, I wouldn't say 580 overnight. I wouldn't say 580 overnight. I think you're more likely to see chop in the downward or upward direction. Sideways, I don't like sideways. That feels like building liquidity for a big move. And I'm always worried about those gaps getting filled if we go sideways. I don't like sideways too much. I want that direction to be slightly down or slightly up. Up would mean bait to short. Down would mean bait to short. It really, we'll look at the PCC and things like that, and you'll notice what? A lot of shorts coming in still. 0.9. Started off the day, 0.99. So we'll see. And I think we're going to see a moment where it's like, do people short with a downside move or do people short with the upside move? And I think either way, I think they're going to short, but we'll see. Oh, Jeff, thank you for the $5. Appreciate you, buddy. I don't know if I turned off the alert box. I did turn off the alert box for today. We'll turn that on. Sorry about that. Makes me think we fill a gap. Definitely can. Definitely can for NVIDIA, you know, but it's building at resistance. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Here we go. Now we're going to see if this was a trick or not. Now we're going to see if it's a trick. Let's see if it's a trick. If we see the trick, we're looking for the, I think FOMC treat. If we see the trick, then that can tell us the direction, I think, going into OPEX. So if we see, and this is some pretty good strength here. So we'll still look for this. I'm liking this, right? We don't want to lean in this direction when we just broke that low, not necessarily. But we can easily see this. And then we got to see if we start to roll from these type of levels. Is it possible to hit 580? I always say it's possible, King, by the way. I always say it's possible, especially when you're saying overnight, you got earnings going on and things like that. I always say, yeah, it's possible. Is it probable? Is it a good setup for a good trade to say, oh, the market will hit 580 and I'm going to bet my money on that right now? No, not necessarily. No. And now, if you're looking for 580 by options expiration next week, it's more of a timing issue. You know, are you saying that this is all we're going to see? Well, if this is all we're going to see, then we better see us do this. We better get there. We better get there. That would be very, very good. Someone did ask about, what is it, AMD? AMD. From this perspective, very hard to be long here. Very hard to start a long position with this type of look. Unless you're just continuing to squeeze. Unless you're just continuing to squeeze. I mean, if you take into consideration what's going on here and the craziness we've seen, I mean, if you look at something like what, Microsoft? Look at that. Look at that. That's the craziness you've seen. So for something like AMD, is that impossible? No. But this is the get out of jail free card before earnings, right? Get out of jail free card before earnings is pretty much right here. And if you're going to see a sell-off, right, I would like to see the sell-off before FOMC. I would like people to talk very negatively and get very negative, and the media post negative off AMC, or off of, well, AMC too, but I would say FOMC. I would love to see that. Negativity after FOMC. I'll still be looking at the trend, looking at the levels, looking at price action, seeing what we're breaking, seeing if we're rolling. But everything's in bullish context. And just, I mean, just to get an idea of it, I'm a guy that still talks about the ultimate like crash that could be coming, right? I'm just talking about the environment you're in right now. So AMD, for the most part, unfinished business. That means we could get a good reaction, sell that thing down, do a similar thing to do a similar thing as Palantir, except we haven't hit those levels yet. So we'll have to see. For the time being, not bad stuff. I just want to say, like, this, yeah, you're going to see this type of shit all the time in a squeeze. Earnings is a 50-50 flip. It could be down, then up. It could be up, down, then up. It could be down to retest all the way at the lows, right? But it's more likely that as real buyers with these big, you know, as far as real buyer, it's like, as far as just big amounts of buyers, not just algorithmic, is potentially in this with these big gaps and kind of big rips back here. If people are still holding from back here, holding down here, I mean, you would say there's probably buyers here. Okay, awesome. Now you know what? Hey, there's buyers up here too, potentially. So that just tells you, like, hey, yeah, if this thing pulls down, what are you looking for? Well, 2 hour would be more so looking like what? You'd still be pretty bullish on this, right? What you're looking for is more moments like this, right? You come down dramatically into this type of area, you react up, and then you roll and you lose that. So that would mean you have to see like downside into this area, roll that, downside into this area, roll that, and then that would be really, really bad. It's just earnings is going to cause some crazy behavior back and forth. For this move, though, I think you could see the surge. We'll see if it's able to get all the way to 116, 115.50, but I think there's too much risk of seeing just this before that actually happens. I don't know if this would be a sell the news type of thing for AMD just yet. I think the sell the news would be the fade from 115. It's the best I can do, right? Reading into earnings, not necessarily a great thing to do, but there's a way to read into it. I would have to focus on it for like 2 hours to probably figure it out. Oh, look at that. It got sold off. Nothing good yet. But this happens a lot, right? This happens a lot. Can we get to... Can we get to 570? 570, 573 would be a great enough of an extension to see that pull down, start to see maybe a dump into FOMC. What I'm kind of looking for now is kind of what we're doing here. See this? Boom. I think that would be great. That would be fantastic. If we see it just hold price, hold price, hold price, that's a good thing. I'm assuming that FOMC might be used as a negative thing soon, whether it's now or whether it's after the print. We'll see. Oh, I think you're testing in the middle of that, aren't you? Actually, you're testing potentially past the middle of that now. Add some credibility to bears, but once again, shorting in the environment difficult. We'll see. All right, big earnings and stuff too. So I'm going to continue to be patient. I'm going to look at this MACD. I'm going to see the MACD close to that center line and just say, oh, all we need is a 5-minute curl up. Literally all we need is a 5-minute curl up. What are you guys chatting about? When would I be buying Amazon again? I mean, as far as it goes for Amazon, I think this is too much risk for me to say, like, yeah, I want to buy that thing right now. I think Amazon is pointing in that direction. Amazon's kind of saying, like, yeah, we're going to go down to potentially even 550 for the SPY. But we haven't seen that super negativity come in for the SPY, so probably reading into it too much. But we have rejected off the zone. But you're overall just kind of like in a range. Like overall, you did see the higher high just to give you that, but it is a higher high. So if you're not losing this, then this really isn't something you're looking at. And I'm going to move that down now that we have it. Let's move it onto the gaps. So am I like bullish on Amazon? Yes. Am I bullish right now, this very second on Amazon? Not necessarily, but the reason to be bullish on Amazon is just like, hey, this still had the divergence beneath it. So if you get the 2 hour to still pull back even with divergence, it's just risky. And you would say, okay, if this low is broken, I don't necessarily want to buy it. But if this just goes like this and then starts to curl up, hey, that's how you get to potentially what, 197, 200? Gap fill up high, right towards here. So I still think patience is your best friend. If I didn't, I would be telling you I'd be buying something. I'd be, doing something. I'm not planning on day trading this or anything like that. Oh, I got this thing going. We looked at Palantir multiple times. Looking for the retest towards 90 before I hop into that, but I think you could see a bullish reaction initially. All right, this is pretty much as low as you want to go for the day, right? You start to lose the second one. It starts to add even more credibility here for bad things. So you really don't want to lose this point. You can start to make rejections from here that look pretty ugly to get down to the next point. So I just want us to understand the context of this environment is bullish. Where is the 30-minute at? Positive territory, right? Yeah, that's literally like as low. Looking at my stuff, I mean, that's like as low as you really want to go. And there's the support. Okay. All right, we'll be watching it from here. This is why 5 minutes can do a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot. And it's more so about, the closing here is downward towards the end of day. Puts not increasing. Dollar bounced back a little bit. I know it's a 5 minute, but we just want to see if it's bounced back at all. There you go. Bounce back just a little bit. And we were able to hold up at the lowest point I wanted to get to on this 5-minute push. We're able to hold. That's kind of wild. Oh, that's really wild, actually. I'd say we're going to retest 550, 540 again before going up. I think this will tell if I'm right. I think this is the scenario you're looking for, trading strategies. I think this is the scenario you're looking for, but it's just we need to see the next roll. And look, this is going to take you into end of day, and some earnings could just ruin that plan completely. You think SoFi could hit 14 before Friday? 14 would take you outside of the moves for this week. So can it happen? Yes. Is it highly probable to happen? That's a different story. It's it's outside of your 68% zone. So just be aware of that. Fear and greed at 57, higher than it was at all-time highs. Oh, there we go. More rejection, more rejection. Giving it up. I'm hoping this thing just keeps rolling. Keep going. Keep going. Get that 550 trading strategy. I'm with you, man. I want to see 550. That'd be great. What's that, T-Maker? Bezos selling 25 million shares the next year, not month. I mean, you could say this is still overall sideways. I think you're more just seeing. I think you're more just seeing gaps and traps within the dailies all the time. I mean, you got to the expected move last week. You got to the expected monthly move last month. We've lost that low. We have lost the low. So you're going to, if this is some kind of massive trap-like thing right now, that's the problem. Yeah, this is what you want to see. Trading strategies, something you would like to see is kind of that, it's just rough because it's at the end of the day, which means at the end of the day, it could be some kind of funky thing with earnings. And so I said, shorting, difficult. You can be paying attention to direction and things like that, right? And if you're shorting, you're hopefully good at it. But yeah, I would overall still say in this environment, the 30 minutes too positive. Being bullish right now is literally an IQ test. It's not necessarily being bullish in the environment. Doesn't mean we're risking money just yet. What's George saying? Well, I'm not a guru like some YouTuber, but I've been short since Friday. That's what's up. That's what's up, George. You're pulling it off. I like it. There you go. Broke it, rejected off the bottom end, didn't even get the next curl up. I like it, George. Congratulations, buddy. I would be prepared for sneaky things. Sneaky things. If I drew this zone wrong, maybe not though. Maybe it does need this big of a move here. Yeah, we'll take the full extension. I'm trying to get rid of this. The only thing that holds you up in this area is here. Your last line in the sand. Because this is way different. This is a roll, right? This, yeah, you consider it a roll. We'll see. But I'm looking right here now. Kind of your last line of sand. This isn't good, right? It's not good for the 5-minute chart, but it is a 5-minute chart. What do I look at? This. Why do I look at this? Because 5-minute charts can tell you a lot of things. You have to be seriously paying attention to price action and look for your opportunity, right? 30-minute, you can be patient with it, let it do what it wants to do. What did I want to see? I want to see this. I would like to see that even extend, right? I would like to see this. I'd like to see anything. But at the end of the day, not the end of the day, meaning during the stream, more just like at the end of it all, in conclusion, is the 30 minutes showing me the things that I need to see something like this happen? I think you have one form of it right here, which means, you know, it's not necessarily like a 5-star rating on this divergence. So I'll be paying attention to here now. If this is some kind of massive end of day trap-like thing. If it's some kind of trap-like thing, what's the time now? 5 minutes. You maybe see a wick here. You see that kind of explode up. That would be interesting, but we'll have to find out. Literally anything in this environment trading strategies. Literally anything. Literally show me anything. Show me the short up at 580. Show me the short at 573. Maybe 572. Or I'm sorry, 573 to 576. Show me the short at 580 to 590. Show me the long at 562. Right? Using 562 as support would be great. Show me the long at 550. I say we all jump on T-bill cash train with Buffett. Yeah, let's just trade like Buffett. We'll probably do better. Yeah, first red day at 9 days, and everyone's like, we're going down to 400. No, people aren't saying that. You guys are doing good. You guys are doing good. And some of you guys are confident enough to short, which is just, that. I think that's great. It's just some people are willing to take on more risks than others, and that's perfectly fine. I think that's awesome. I think that's great. Gotta praise the Buffett. Gotta buy that Oxy, right? Trump about to announce another pause, 4.9%, 30 bond yield. He might be reacting to bonds at that point. Bonds are not looking good on the daily scale. You don't want to see this thing cross up. That's how you get to that's how you get the 10-year to potentially 4.7. So not the best thing in the world. All right, we're not going to get all the way down there. Let's see. This is why 5 minutes are rough. Because you could probably draw a zone here, maybe match it with this. I like to mark off, if you notice how we're talking about more like, you know, block resistance, things like that. But more times than not, you'll see me actually create the zone more like, where's that gap? Okay, where's this level? Right there. You'll more see me do this, right? But for the context of what we've been talking about for the last few weeks, I just wanted to mark that off. If all news is bad, how do we pop up? Priced in. If all news is bad news and the market explodes higher, then it is not something that that is not priced in. Wait, I saw Richard. Where is it? Double top-ish? Even if you see a double top somewhere, at least for the SPY and the QQQs, take into consideration the environment and know that if that double top even brings you all the way to 550, watch if something curls up. I would hold out for short squeeze Tuesday, Wednesday, just like the 90-day pause, last with 4.8. Lots of consolidation here. Yeah, you open up the time frame, it just looks like consolidation in some way. Yeah, it's a little bit more, I think, than you would say, right? A little bit more than you would say. That's why I would just be open to this. This would be great. So pumped for that. That would be great. All right, here we go. Oh, nothing. I thought we'd see a little pump in the last second here. Let's watch the after for just a little bit. Extend it. I want to hang with you guys for another 5 minutes or so before I have to hop off, go do some parenting stuff. See what happens. I want to see as we react potentially into that zone. We're just getting nothing back and forth. Because if this starts to fail, right, if we see that bounce and roll, then we can see that. So you're probably going to hear me in tonight's video still discussing that 550, especially as the 2 hour has crossed here. This has opened the door to 550. To at least gap fill at, I would say, 557. $557, what's the actual close there? 557.16. Let me see here, 30-minute. Get off of this for a sec. Okay, and also we can read into, at least from a day-to-day basis, right? Is this Friday? Yeah, Friday. Bam. Yeah, this isn't necessarily something you want to see. Not at the close. You really wanted that to spike up at the close. See that wick come in. Didn't really get that. So I think the door is definitely open to here. I think the door is open to here. And I think the door is open to that 550 now. So we'll talk about that in tonight's video as we get some daily expected moves and things like that. Those are going to shift down, right? On the daily, you're going to see those kind of shift. Most likely look something like this. If we're lucky, it kind of forms in a key area. We see it kind of more look like that. We'll be paying attention. All right, we'll read into this. I like to give it a good look for about, I like to let that IV settle for a little bit. I like to give it a good look for about 30 minutes or so. So I will be having a YouTube video out in a little bit. Thanks for joining for the last bit of the day for the live stream at the end of the day. Looking at shorter time frames and things like that, just really paying attention to the price action. So far, with the price action we do have at this moment, you are opening the door to a lot of things. You're opening the door to here. You're even opening the door down to lower levels, and you've opened the door down to that 550 test, but that would still be mostly in bullish context. What I'd be looking for actually, which would be very interesting, this would be very interesting, is maybe you actually see some more downside, you get into that zone, you see that thing pop back up, and then you reject from here again, making the double top actually in the zone. That would be ooh, actually, that would be very interesting. So I'm going to take a good look at this, and then we'll talk about it in tonight's YouTube video. But thank you guys so much for joining for the closing stream. Thank you for joining for the closing stream today, guys. I know we're over on YouTube now, not necessarily on Rumble this week. We'll change back to Rumble eventually, most likely, unless things go great over here on YouTube. But It was that 5-day today. Friday is also 5-day, 9-day this week. Oh, goodness gracious, Ta. A lot of math coming in and being like, these trends. So we'll see what happens with this, okay? Thank you, guys. Happy to see you too as well, Jeff. Thank you for shouting it out. I appreciate you, buddy. Hope you guys have a good night, right? Go out there, go to the gym, eat some good food, and then come back maybe later for some little bit of stock market analysis, and then we'll get you guys those daily expected moves. All right, guys. Peace out. Have a good one. Donald, what's up? What's most likely? I think in this area, you could still be going sideways. But for the most part, you have opened the door to lower levels. So mainly looking for bullish trades, and we'll be mentioning that in tonight's video. All right. Nice to see you guys. 33 likes. We like that. Right, Tom? Peace out, homies.